Sorry about that brief interruption. So let me just share that screen again. So just coming back to this again, GBP AUD daily, seeing that breakout. We had the previous breakout, obviously, which we spoke about before, with a continuation approach, giving us a nice winning trade through the course of, well, certainly probably the week before last. But as we came into the beginning of this week, I think certainly in our last review session, we recognized that we were looking at impulsive behavior on this. That's certainly compounded through the course of this week with another continuation entry, if you were looking at that on the 29th, which on Thursday would have triggered very easily. But most importantly, looking at our 13 candle channel over here, dropping down to the 4-hour time frame, we would have been looking just on Friday alone, possibly a few days before the beginning of the week. But even if we just limit ourselves to looking at what happened on Friday, we had this final candle closing out um, on Thursday, giving us significant setup conditions for Friday as well. So even if you didn't get into that, it's important to realize that from our technical analysis point of view, we are always looking to identify first and foremost whether the conditions are appropriate for a trade or not. So this is not about trying to forecast or predict the market. This is about simply positioning ourselves if conditions are appropriate, and that's that. And of course, that's what your rule set is for. But before you can apply the timing elements of your rule set, you need to have selection right. So folks, we don't know what's going to happen this coming week. This is still Sunday. The markets haven't yet opened for the week, but this is a very significant bullish breakout. And it's not just on this currency pair as well. It's across the board. So we've seen that on our currency strength evaluation, where we're looking at the pound being strong across the board and both the Aussie and the Kiwi looking very weak. Likewise, the US dollar pretty close behind in terms of weakness. So let's just keep an eye out for that. Just going to the pound again, you'll notice here we haven't got a breakout yet on either the weekly or the daily time frame on the GBP USD. So despite the fact that the pound is showing a lot of strength and the US dollar a lot of weakness, if we look across the board, we don't yet have breakouts from our channel. So still something very much worth bearing in mind to keep an eye on. But we basically go for anything where our selection criteria are met. And so keep an eye out for what's happening, certainly on the currency pairs where we have actually got our selection criteria met. Once again, I will say this every single time, this is not a signal service. This is about showing you guys what you need to keep your eyes out for. I'd also just like to point out that over the last 10 days or so, trading days, we've still had more losers than winners. And in fact, a lot of the folks who have been even just started learning with me even recently have been profitable in the last couple of weeks, despite the fact that they've had several more losing trades than winners. And of course, that is exactly how we dominate over uncertainty. They've been able to minimize their downside and score big on the winners. So when that's the case, you can even lose 2 out of 3 trades and still be making money. And that's, of course, how we dominate in an environment where we really do not know what is going to happen next. So we've had a look then at the currencies, just again to point out that this is an amazing amount of activity that we're seeing popping up at the moment. So many times when I spend time with, and many of you folks have spent time with me on our intensive 3-day or 5-day trading sessions, we sit looking at maybe 2 or 3 instruments where there's actually activity. This last week has certainly been very, very different. So always be careful. Don't second guess the market. Don't assume anything for the future. Make sure you follow your rule set. Always use the 3 pillars, especially the third one. Limit your downside, maximize upside. So That was just a quick rundown of the currency pairs. There's a lot that I'm sure you guys are already looking at, but let's just pop down to some of our commodities. Gold is still outside, certainly on our 4-wave HTC channel, very much outside. On weekly time frame, we've got 2 bullish impulse candles in a row over the last 2 weeks. Having said that, however, on the daily time frame, we've only now recently seen this close on Friday, just a marginal close outside of our CSM channel. So keep an eye on that. But certainly dollar weakness again showing itself here as we saw on the currencies. When we go to our good old-fashioned oil, bearish resumption on the daily time frame. Always happy to see that. It certainly helps to make the cost of living easier for people. But certainly using that on the lower time frame. Had you used that, of course, to use a trend continuation entry, pretty easy one there. You may well still be in this trade depending on how aggressive your targeting is. Certainly dropping down to the lower time frames. We've had a couple of losers here as well, but again, limit downside, maximize upside. I think, in fact, the second last 4-hour candle on Friday, we hit one of our take profits looking at oil. We spoke about cocoa before as well. Cocoa is still very much outside the channel on a weekly. Having said that, however, we are in a corrective phase now. So even though we had a bullish candle for the week, it's still isolated the preceding high, and it is corrective on the weekly time frame. So no go again on daily until we have reason to believe we're back into an impulse wave. Now it's looking promising, no question about that, but there's no confirmation on that. But then looking at daily as a selection time frame to drop down to 4-hour, well outside of our 4-wave HTC channel, and both on the 29th, which is Wednesday, and the 30th, we had signals to go long. I trust that you would have identified, even after Wednesday's close, the possibility of being able to go long here. But even if you'd missed that, you'll notice that open on Friday was a good opportunity to go long. Had you done that, you would have gone straight to target in the first candle of the day. So very easy win there. Cocoa once again giving us some nice trading conditions. Cotton, we also spoke about before. Looking at weekly, we've definitely pulled straight back inside the channel. That was the case the week before, but this is certainly still very much ongoing. So significant bullish weakness, to say the least, on weekly, which is represented by a bearish breakout here on daily. So something to keep an eye out for during the course of this week if you're trading these commodities. Is that we've got this bearish breakout on the daily time frame. So that would set you up potentially for trading on the lower time frame. Right, so our indices, likewise, we've got a couple of interesting developments here where continued weakness showing itself. I hate to apply the narrative effect, and I discourage it at all times. But apparently it's something to do with some kind of virus or whatever. But yeah, always remember that with the indices, our continuation strategies work best in a bullish direction. These are non-symmetrical markets, unlike the currency market. So just remember that, folks. You can't trade the same way in a bearish direction on these as you would in a bullish, unlike the currency market. So S&P, likewise, not showing quite as much weakness as the Dow, likewise with the NASDAQ, but our European stock markets showing massive weakness by comparison. And you'll certainly see that here on the FTSE. And you can't blame that purely on Brexit, because the European stocks is likewise showing massive weakness. So both the UK and European markets looking pretty weak. And I don't think that actually has anything to do with Brexit, to be honest. But again, I'm not into applying the the narrative effect. DAX likewise showing huge bearish, well, showing lots of volatility, and certainly it's not bullish at all. Right, so that's just a quick rundown. I know it's a quick one this week. 2 videos, so hopefully you get to watch this one as well. Hope that's useful. Folks, remember, at the end of the day, trading success is nothing or has nothing to do with the ability to predict that which cannot be predicted. Obviously, those of you who've been with me for any amount of time know that, and I keep repeating it because our minds need reminding of that fact. So the ability to succeed here requires you to be rigorously consistent in doing the right thing over a period of time. And that is represented by our 3 pillars. Have your edge, make sure it's the right kind of edge, which limits downside or seeks to limit downside whilst maximizing upside. And you work that edge using the law of large numbers. There is nothing else. Unfortunately, we don't live in a gamified environment like a casino, even though we often use those examples for illustrating what we're doing. But remember, this is an environment where truly anything can happen, unlike a casino or something like that. So, folks, I hope that's useful again. If you do have any questions, please do make sure to pop them in. If you don't have any exposure to our training yet, you're welcome to send us a query, please. We've got an enormous amount of access to online training for folks. A lot of it is free, so if you want to gain access to that, please just drop us a line, ask for more information, download our ebooks. You know, a lot of the stuff is absolutely there for you to edify yourself, and from there, hopefully, you'll be able to find that missing link in your trading to date. So have a great week further. Enjoy the trading. I think it's going to be action-packed. Please always make sure that you manage risk first. It's going to be a volatile week. Right, guys, so have an awesome week. God bless. Chat to you soon.